Chapter 3.2 Confucianism. Traditionally, this religion's founder was a government official who lived from about 551 to 479 BCE. His name is the anglicized form of Master Kung. Confucius was born in what is now China's Shandong province, then south of the larger kingdom of Lu, and worked for his local government in various roles before moving to different realms. Along the way, he developed a philosophy of behavior that encouraged the following of rules to provide a boundary for life. Proper performance served to reform desires and create moral attitudes, he taught. In that way, he conflicted with Lao Tzu, who preferred an existence bound only by nature. Confucius' ideas were adopted by successive rulers, and today remains the most pervasive philosophy in China. Not an organized religion with clergy and tenets, it sets guidelines for life with a focus on love for fellow humans, reverence for ancestors, respect for elders through self-discipline, and the following of basic rituals. The religion is estimated to have between 5 million to 6 million adherents. Moism. Founded by Mozi, a carpenter born around 470 BCE in what is now Tengzhou, Shandong province, China, the religion was a response to Confucianism and Taoism. A low-level bureaucrat, Mozi taught that everyone was equal and that only good people should be able to gain authority. He rejected Confucianism as too fatalistic. He also spurned elaborate funerals and celebrations that marked that philosophy. Mozi developed a reputation for austerity and supposedly became saddened when pure white silk was dyed, feeling the new color voided its sense of simplicity and chastity. By the time Mozi died in 391, his religion had achieved widespread support. However, the Qin dynasty, 221 BCE, objected to his teachings. Authorities burned books and killed Moism scholars. The religion soon vanished. Mandaean. Another of the oldest religions in the world continues on despite decreasing numbers and centers on John the Baptist, who Mandaeans believe was the most important prophet. As a result, their religion precedes Christianity. Some historians argue that aspects of the faith go further back than Judaism. The name may be derived, there are arguments about that, from the Aramaic word for knowledge. To the surrounding Muslims these days, they are Sabians, which is a term from their sacred book, the Quran, for individuals who are not Islamic. The religion was probably founded by followers of John the Baptist, who died in late prior to 35 CE. Mandaeans reject Muhammad, Jesus and Moses as false prophets and trace their roots back to Adam and his children, Abel and Seth, and grandson Enoch, then to Noah and 2 of his children, Shem and Ham. Mostly, though, their focus is on John the Baptist, who appears briefly in Jewish historian Josephus' account of the Jewish war against the Romans that lasted from 66 to 73 CE. Describing events leading up to the war, Josephus recounted a battle fought between Judean King Herod Antipas and his ex-father-in-law Aretas, the king of Petra. Antipas divorced Phasaelis, Aretas' daughter, in order to marry his half-brother's second wife, Herodias. Outraged, Phasaelis got her father to raise an army to fight Antipas. Herod lost the ensuing battle. Josephus then recorded, "Now some of the Jews thought that the destruction of Herod's army came from God, as a just punishment of what Herod had done against John, who was called the Baptist. For Herod had killed this good man, who had commanded the Jews to exercise virtue, righteousness towards one another, and piety towards God. For only thus, in John's opinion, would the baptism he administered be acceptable to God, namely, if they used it to obtain not pardon for some sins, but rather the cleansing of their bodies, inasmuch as it was taken for granted that their souls had already been purified by justice. Now many people came in crowds to him, for they were greatly moved by his words. Herod, who feared that the great influence John had over the masses might put them into his power and enable him to raise a rebellion, for they seemed ready to do anything he should advise, thought it best to put him to death. In this way, he might prevent any mischief John might cause, and not bring himself into difficulties by sparing a man who might make him repent of it when it would be too late. Accordingly, John was sent as a prisoner, out of Herod's suspicious temper, to Machaerus, and was put to death. Josephus 18, 116-119. Note that the well-known story of Salome dancing, and then demanding John the Baptist's head as a reward, is a later accretion to the account. John's death motivated a few people to believe that he was a messenger from God and initiated a religion that focused on him. The sect developed some tenets, including that a formless entity created the spiritual, etheric, and material worlds and beings. They adopted the Zoroastrian concept of dualism, such as dark and light, which also seeped into Christianity. To them, the soul is captive and wants to reunite with the entity. They believe in spirits akin to angels who guide a soul on its travels in secrecy. They avoid alcohol and red meat. Mandeans still baptize, typically in a river. They wear white, which to them represents purity, faith, and cleansing. After baptism, they fast for 36 hours, supposedly the time needed for the spiritual soul to create both the world and Adam, whom the Bible identifies as the first man. They are not celibate and value marriage and children. They accept the Old Testament, but have their own sacred documents, led by the Genzer Rabbah or Jinza, a collection of history, theology, and prayers. The writing has been traced back to the 2nd or early 3rd century CE. Other works are mostly commentaries written in Manaic, which is a dialect of Aramaic. Another text titled the Book of John the Baptist, Drasha letter 1E0 Fiahia, includes a dialogue between Jesus and John. They have several religious documents, highlighted by the Haran Gaweda, which describes a migration of their priests from ancient Judea to Mesopotamia around 100 CE. Members of the religion were persecuted by Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein prior to the American invasion in 2003. As a result of harsh treatment and an earlier cholera epidemic, their numbers have shrunk considerably. Over the years, many have fled their native land for such distant locales as Sweden, Canada, Australia, and the United States. They were given asylum in Texas as a persecuted group. Total membership is not thought to exceed 10,000 people. Mandeans do not accept converts. In addition, children of Mandeans who marry non-Mandeans are not considered part of the sect, which is one reason their numbers are so small. Many members follow the traditional trade of goldsmiths, others have become doctors and teachers.